you sit here and you're a Met fan and you're thinking about the finances and what a mess everything is and how the team cut payroll dramatically this year and how they haven't added anything. And you think about the Yankees and, they go out and they add this and they add that and they go out and get this pitcher and get this and use their now strong farm system to get this and get that and, put on a team that's going to be, it's going to go into the season and the question is the team going to win 92, 94, 96, or 98 games, okay? I mean, that's, will the Yankees win 100 or will they win 92? Okay, 92 would be a bad year, 100 would be a good year. I mean, that's basically the Yankees. We understand that. And that's hard to deal with year after year after year. I do understand that. But the idea, and it is a spoiled one, the idea that the only baseball season that counts is a baseball season that ends with a championship, that there are no enjoyable seasons where your team... Now, listen, if your team wins 65 games and is never decent, that's not an enjoyable season. I'm not saying it is. But you can have seasons where your team overachieves and where your team plays over its head for a couple of months and finds itself maybe in the middle of something for a while, and you get moments out of a season. Last season, for a while, was enjoyable. There was some positive things that were going on with that team last year. Did it fall apart late? Did it run out of gas? And did they obviously have to get rid of Beltran and move on? And, yeah. Did Reyes get hurt and Beltran get, traded to the Giants? And did all that change? Yeah, it did. Did G run out of gas? And all? Yeah. But the idea that the only season that counts, and listen, if you're a Yankee fan who has grown up in this generation, all you know is, how did I do in the postseason? I want to get rid of guys who don't get hits in the World Series, okay? The idea that anybody ever judged their players by whether or not they got hits in the World Series or not, or in the playoffs, it was absurd in old baseball. That's not how you judge your players. You didn't judge your players on whether they got a hit in the postseason. Because in those days, the postseason was the World Series. There was no other postseason. If you were lucky enough, you were in the World Series. If not, you weren't. That was your season. And the World Series was something that stood alone. You didn't judge your player on whether or not he hit in the World Series. That is a new phenomenon. That whole postseason thing is a new phenomenon. But the idea that you can't have a season, that you can't have anything you build on, and I'm not just talking about having a rookie come out of nowhere and have your next star. And you could have a little of that this year. Maybe Tejada steps up. Maybe Ike becomes what you hope he's going to become. Maybe, Lucas Duda becomes a slugger of some note. And those are the things you obviously hope for. But I'm telling you, I can remember. Now, when I was a kid, the Yankees were great. Okay? They won all the time. That's all I knew. Mickey Mantle in the World Series. That's all I knew. Okay? And then by the time I was, getting to be, 12, 13 years old, the Yankees weren't very good anymore. They had hit the skids. They were getting old in front of my eyes. And they didn't have a whole lot of players. And then they went into these lean years where, you were excited about, you're right, first you had to deal with Mantle retirement and everybody else leaving and getting old. And then you had to deal with, this next group of stars who, we all, if you're old enough to remember, the Steve Whitakers and the Roger Reposes and the, the Mike Hegans, okay, and all the guys who were going to be sensational players, Bill Robinson, who came over, in the trade and was going to be, an incredible player for the Yankees. And, of course, Roger Repose and Steve Whitaker and Jim Hegan's kid, Mike Hegan, was going to be the next – they're all going to be the next Mickey Mantle. And you lived through all these lean years and, these terrible years. And then all of a sudden you started to develop some new players. And in 69 on opening day, you had a couple of Yankees hit home runs. And you had some new players. And you had Bobby Mercer and Thurman Munson and Jerry Kenney and guys like that. And then all of a sudden you had a team, that wasn't so bad. And the Yankees went and dusted off this guy in 72, and they found themselves in the strike year in a pennant race. Right in the middle of a pennant race. And they weren't many games over 500, but everyone was in the pennant race. And the Yankees went down the stretch that year, and, they had Sparky Lyle. And they had, of course, they had a big year out of Bobby Mercer, who that year had 33 homers, 96 RBIs, and a 292 batting average. 33 homers, 30 doubles, 33 homers, a big year. Big year. And you had Thurman Munson, who in those days people used to knock for not knocking in any big runs. You had, obviously, Bloomberg. You still had Horace Clark. You had Stick. You had a guy that was kind of a guy who became a cult hero out of nowhere in a very short time, and here a very short time, because right after that Greg Nettles came. But you had Celerino Sanchez come up and play third base for them that year. And, you had role players. You had, Felipe Alou and Bernie Allen and, John Ellis and, of course, Kenny. You actually had, even Ron Swoboda on the Yankees, if you remember. You had, Hal Lanier and Charlie Spikes and guys like that, and Fritz and Mel and Steve Klein and pitchers like that. And, of course, the wonder Sparky Lyle with the whole coming out of the Datsun and waving his coat like the Count, the whole thing. The whole pomp and circumstance and jumping out of the car, and that was great. And the Yankees sweeping the Tigers, a doubleheader and a 5-game set, and moving into a tie for first place, and the place going absolutely berserk. And they weren't any good. They weren't any good, but you know what? You loved it. They were back. They were fighting. Houck was there, and they were fighting for first, but it was fun. And on that Sunday, they got eliminated by who else but Gaylord Perry, who beat them about 400 times that year.